Let's go. Section 2. The section we're discussing today is what can we do to bring Mashiach? And today I'm going to tell you a story from the Gemara about a man who met the Mashiach and had a conversation with him. Let's discover what this conversation was. The Gemara says something very interesting about the Messianic era before Mashiach arrives. That's really what we're discussing. Remember last class, which is an important prerequisite for this class, we said there's 2 time frames of Mashiach coming, Be'ito, Achishena. What does the word Be'ito mean? In its proper time. Achishena was brought earlier, right? Those 2 options are available to us. We, through our actions, can make the Messianic era begin earlier. The Gemara is going to tell us 2 ways that can happen. Follow aside, it's fascinating stuff. V'amar Rabbi Yochanan said, Ein ben David ba, the son of David, which is a reference to the Mashiach, who is going to be a descendant of King David, is only going to come, Ella Bedor Shekula Zakai or Kulo Chayav. It's going to come in a generation which is either completely righteous or completely degenerate. What does a righteous one mean? So the Marasha over there says, through Teshuvah, you'll see a generation of Teshuvah. They all do Teshuvah. It's going to be a Teshuvah-able generation, a Baal Teshuvah generation, and we're going to see. Coming back. The other opinion is no. Opinion is no. You're going to see it when things are really bad. When things are really bad, Mashiach comes. These seemingly are 2 contradictory statements and 2 extremes. What do you mean? Mashiach only comes if the generation is really, really, really good or really, really, really bad. Why does it have to be so extreme? Why can't it just be, I don't know, everyone's doing okay? Why these 2 extremes? Yes, Ms. Fisher.
I know this sounds bad, but like, why is there such an emphasis to become better for Mashiach to come when it's so many Jews are doing the wrong thing and we should just join? Like a small 5% who are doing the right thing should join them and Mashiach to come.
So you're saying something very interesting. You're saying, hey, let's say you're making an assumption that most people are getting it wrong and most people are wicked, which I'm not making. I'm just quoting the Gemara. You're saying that, well, we have to define that. We have to define what is wrong or what is bad or what is good. You're saying, hey, if this is what the prerequisite is, but this may not be advice what to do, right? It's just a statement of fact. It's not saying, well, if you're good and most people are not good, become bad. I doubt that's the intention of the sages when they made the statement. They're just describing the elements that would lead to an earlier arrival of the Mashiach. Question is, why does it have to be such an extreme? It's not saying, Julia Fisher, you're such a tzedekis, and everyone else is really, really bad, so you know what? Be bad, Mashiach will come. No, it ain't saying that. It's just saying, we're going to see certain things that would lead to Mashiach coming. We're going to see certain things. And we saw similar things in Mitzrayim as well in Egypt. But it's just, why these 2 extremes? So let's just work out, give me an arguments for both sides, please. Let's think a little bit. Give me arguments for both sides. Really, really good, really, really bad. Yes.
Really, really bad. So in Mitzrayim,
Yeah.
that he had to take us out early because then we would have assimilated.
Very, very good. We know in Mitzrayim, had Hashem not taken us at that moment, we wouldn't have been the Jewish people a year later. The assimilation was so bad and was so desperate that we were getting to a point where, had Hashem not taken us out, we would still be in Egypt today. Okay, what's the other side? The other side's easier. If we're really, really good, well, we deserve it. It's like, hey, we deserved it. And we actually looked, we got to connect this idea to the Be'ito Achishena, because one is miraculous, one is non-miraculous. Which brings the miraculous version of the Messianic redemption, the unfolding of a Messianic drama in a very exciting, miraculous way? If it is Achishena. The Achishena, the early arrival of Mashiach through our actions, makes it miraculous. Right? That was the star version flying through the sky that everyone gets to see. The other version was the Be'ito, in its time, non-miraculous, and that's Mashiach arriving on a donkey, right? Which is a not very exciting start to our redemption. Okay? That is one basic definition. We're going to see another definition of things really, really bad and really, really good, and not a mixture of both. And Ms. Fisher, I would not like to say that we're in a generation that's really, really good, really, really bad, because who are we to know? Only God knows how people are doing. It may not be quantity of mitzvot, it could be quality of mitzvot. Right? Who knows? Maybe our generation is really, really good. It's not looking fantastic, but it could be. You know, but then that's my personality. I'm not one of those rabbis that judges people. I don't think we can judge. You know, that's not my that's not who I am. Other rabbis would judge and say that things are terrible. You know. Having said that, there are many people coming back to tshuva. Yes.
Does this basically, like, by this definition, as long as we have Gedolim, basically, like, we couldn't have a completely bad generation?
I like that. I'm not sure it's true. I would like to think it's true. But first of all, what does everyone? Does it literally mean everyone? It doesn't mean the whole, even the greatest people among us have. We're actually going to see a Mishnah at the end of Sota that's going to show us that even great people are going to be denigrated at the time before Mashiach comes. And people you never thought doing terrible things, yeah, I know. It's hard to believe, right? Maybe not so hard to believe, which is a bit of a problem. We're going to come into this. But it's going to affect everyone. Even the greatest people can get affected by a negative generation. Let us meet someone who had a conversation with Mashiach. How is that possible? Before we even start, how can someone have a conversation with Mashiach? Any problems with that statement?
Prophecy.
Anyone here today? Why is it prophecy?
That's the only way you can.
Who says? Why can't it just be meet Mashiach on the street and have a conversation with him? Hey, hello, what's your name? I'm Menachem, or Shiloh, or Yonan, or Hanan. I'm the Mashiach. Is that prophecy? Really? I mean, you're speaking to a prophet, which is impressive.
Yeah.
What's another problem with it, though?
And it's saying Mashiach came.
It really came! I mean, I've got Mashiach's here. Somebody answer Ora's statement. Somebody answer what Ora is saying. She's saying, you can't have a conversation, Mashiach's not here yet. And someone could say in response to that, maybe no one could say in response to that. What?
Isn't there somebody who could have been Mashiach?
There is a potential Mashiach in every generation, so maybe that's what's happening. Or maybe you're right, actually. Maybe it was a form of prophecy. I don't know. Maybe it was a revelation. I mean, we're going to see that Eliyahu Navi is involved in this conversation as well. Well, let's have a look at the Gemara. Maybe we're trying to figure this out, okay? Maybe it was real. Amalei, Rabbi Shua asked, he met Eliyahu Navi. Now, Eliyahu Navi was dead at this point, so he had a visitation, which is pretty impressive. Elijah the prophet, we know, went up to heaven in a whirlwind and did not die. Eliyahu Navi lo meis, and that's why he visits the Pesach Seder and he visits the Brit Milah. There's a discussion whether Elijah the prophet is a malach or actually a man that comes and visits. There is such a discussion among the... But we know that Eliyahu Navi was a very, very great person. Somehow did not die, and whatever that means, and is going to be the connecting tissue between us and the Messianic Mashiach coming. So Elijah the prophet is a very important part of this whole Messianic drama. So Rabbi Yeshua was a great person, and he met him. It's pretty impressive. By the way, it's not the greatest revelation. There's greater revelations that a person can have, right? I mean, people today, there's many stories of people who meet Elijah the prophet. Right? I mean, in my family, we have such a, story. Did it happen or not? I don't know. So he met him, and he had a question for Elijah the prophet. And he said to him, Emes Asi Mashiach, when's Mashiach coming? That's a good question to ask Eliyahu. Meet Eliyahu on the street, like, oh wow, Elijah the prophet, right? Half man, half, heaven. When's Mashiach coming? And Amalei, he responded to Rabbi Yeshua in a very unusual way. Zil Shalid today. Go ask him yourself. It's like, he's like, well, where is he? I mean, I'm happy to go and meet him and to ask him when he's coming, but I don't know where he is. And he says, Apitra de Romi, he is in the gates of Rome. Sitting at the gates of Rome. Umay Simna, well, how am I going to recognize him? Right? There's a lot of people who are there. And he says, Yashiv beinei ani v'sovlei chalayim. He's sitting among the poor lepers. And they are, obviously the lepers were outcasts of society. And he's with them. And all of them are unwinding their bandages at the same time and then covering their sores with clean bandages. Mashiach, however, Mashiach is rewinding his bandage at one time and thinking, perhaps this is going to be the place. Dilma, perhaps. Mvi'ina ikav. I'll be needed and I don't want to delay.
Wait, can you repeat the last
Yeah,
sentence?
this is very, very cryptic. This is a very cryptic Agadic Gemara. Rabbi Yeshua says to Elijah the prophet, wow, Elijah, when's Mashiach coming? Obviously, Eliyahu Novi knows, he's, And he says, well, go ask him yourself. He goes, where is he? He goes, he's by the gates of Rome. He goes there, and he sees that in this instance, Mashiach was a leper. He had Sarat. Not leprosy, he had Sarat. It was a Metzora. Right? Why is it a discussion? But Sarat, we know, is related to speech and Lashon Hara. So the people obviously are speaking it somehow, which we're going to see as a connective thing as well. One of the ways to bring Mashiach is to stop Lashon Hara. We'll get to that when we get to it. But we'll put that, it must be connected somehow. So in this situation, Mashiach, and they're all like doing their bandages, and he's in a certain way because he's ready to come at any moment. So he's affected with this disease, Mashiach. He's sitting with the other poor people, and he's hanging out with them, and he's unwinding it one at a time rather than because he may be needed at any moment. This is very, very, very cryptic piece of Talmud. So he goes up to him, and he says, Amalei, Shalom Alecha, Rabbi Mori. Peace be upon you, my master, my teacher. But if you meet Mashiach, that's a good opening line, by the way. Okay? He's like, Shalom, my teacher, my master. Amalei, Shalom Alecha, Boloi. He says, Shalom to you. Peace be upon you, my son of Levi. Right, Yeshua ben Levi. He refers to him by his father's name. Amalei, Leibas Asimar. Mar is the Talmud way of saying mister. So when are you arriving? Amalei, Hayom, today. Wow. Yeshua ben Levi is told by the Mashiach himself, I'm coming today. He gets very, very excited. Asalagab Eliyahu. He goes back to Eliyahu Novi, and Eliyahu says to him, Amalei, my malach. So you found him. What did you say to him? Or what did he say to you? So he says, Amalei, Shalom Alecha Ba'aloi. When I approached him, I said Shalom to him, and he said, oh, Shalom to you, son of Levi. Amalei, wow. That's a good response from Mashiach. If Mashiach talks to you that way, Iftach lacha lavucha li'amidasi. He guaranteed that both you and your father, because he called you the son of Levi, will have a great place in Olam Haba. Right? He gave you a peace and mentioned your father too. That's what Rashi says over there. That's good. Right? If Mashiach gives you a blessing, it's probably pretty accurate. So he said, Rabbi Yeshua said, but he lied to me. Amalei, Amalei, Shkure Shakarbi. He lied to me. He's a liar. You don't want to call Mashiach a liar. But Yeshua ben Levi can. Damali Hayom Asina. He told me he's coming today. But I waited all day and he didn't come. Amalei. You see, the Hayom that he mentioned, right? The Hayom that he mentioned, which you translated as today, was actually incorrect. Hayom, when he mentioned the word I'm coming, Hayom, he was referring to a specific Hayom. He was referring to a specific Hayom. And what is that? The day. I'm coming on the day. Hayom. The day. What the day is referring to? Says the Gemara, if you look inside, is referring to a verse from Tehillim, which was written and edited by King David. And over there, Hayom im bekolo tishma'u. Over there it says, today, if you will listen to Hashem's voice. So it could be today, but it means the day. What the day referring to? If you listen to Hashem and you follow the mitzvahs, and we'll see specifically what mitzvahs are especially important in order to bring Mashiach, but if you follow the mitzvot, I will come. When? Today. So it doesn't necessarily mean today, it means the day that you get it right. So this Gemara, on a basic level, is telling us that if we follow the mitzvot, if we do the right mitzvot in the right way, and we merit it, we get to bring Mashiach in the Achishena version. The Achishena version. Okay? Now we're going to see that there are certain mitzvahs. Yes?
What's the Achishena version?
Achishena, as mentioned last class, was that through our actions we can actually, through the words of Isaiah the prophet, and Isaiah says there's two ways Mashiach can come. Be'ito, Achishena. Be'ito is in its time, which is a set time. Achishena is we have the ability, as we saw from the Gemara, through our actions to bring Mashiach early or at another non-fixed time. Okay?
Oh, I was there that class.
Does anyone know which mitzvot, which we're going to discuss in more detail, are musugal, have the ability to bring Mashiach early? Some of them are mentioned explicitly. Some of them not explicitly. You can figure it out through calculation. Certain mitzvot have the ability. I mean, what we're saying is, which we mentioned in the earlier class, not all mitzvot are the same. Different mitzvot give you different things. Some of them are good for improving your midot. Some of them are good for increasing your emunah. Right? Sukkot builds emunah. Right? Some of them are good for purifying your soul, keeping kosher, we discussed. What mitzvot are good to bring Mashiach early? Anyone? Shabbos, that's right. Shabbos is considered one of the main ones. Does anyone know specifically how many Shabbats?
One.
2 or 1?
We need one more. We already had one.
So it's 1, it's 2, maybe it's an extra one. You're all correct. There's different opinions. There is one version, just 1 Shabbos and we'll all be free. I won't sing anymore. I'm embarrassing you. Right. How to embarrass your kids. Sing in front of them and their friends. Oh, they love that. Oh, my daughters love that when I sing publicly. Oh, please, do another one. Another Uncle Moshe song, please. Okay. Just 1 Shabbos. Some say 2 Shabboses. And some say actually the first Shabbos we had, and the second one is actually going to complete it and bring it together. Question is why? What is it about Shabbat that brings Mashiach early? Okay. What is it the nature of Shabbat? Well, on a basic level, Shabbat is equal to all the mitzvot. Shabbat is shakol keneged kol mitzvot. So when you keep Shabbat, you're not keeping 1 mitzvah, you're keeping all 613 mitzvot. It's shakol keneged kol mitzvot. That means if you have Shabbat on one side of the scale, and all the other mitzvot on the other side of the scale, it's equal to all of them. They're way out. Shabbat is a very important, powerful mitzvah. Okay, there's a lot more to it. Shabbat is also the portal. It's me'ein olam haba. It is the portal to the next world. And since we're discussing Shabbat, we'll write them down. 1, equal to all the mitzvot. So you've got to keep the Sabbath. 2, it is a part of the next world. And we said Mashiach is going to bring the next world. So it's me'ein olam haba. So you keep Shabbat, you're actually in the next world already. So it's like the easy pass. No Shabbat, you're in the cash lane, you're waiting. That's the Beito. You want to get through quickly, you want to go easy pass, bam! You got to jump straight in, and that's keeping Shabbat. Even 1 Shabbat has the ability. Even 1 Shabbat has the ability. If everyone keeps it. The question is that even possible for everyone to keep Shabbat? So that's a interesting question. Any answers to that? Is it possible for everyone to keep Shabbat? Does it have to be everyone? Maybe everyone means the majority. Maybe it means those people who are generally Shomer Shabbat will keep more Shabbat. Or maybe it means just 1 person, because we know that 1 person can be equal to all the Jewish people. If 1 person really kept Shabbat properly, what's going to happen? I don't know. When Mashiach comes, I'll ask him. So this whole Shabbat thing, what was up with that? Right? Was it you didn't everyone really? Is it only some people? Is it 1 person? Majority? I don't know. So that's that. So those are 2. There's many more reasons, right? Next semester, those at a lower level, we're doing all the philosophy behind Shabbat. You'll see that Shabbat is really everything you need to know about Judaism can be found in Shabbat. It is the most important of all the holidays, and it makes absolute sense. Absolute sense. Does anyone know? This is a very tough question. If you did my Purim class, there's your clue. Does anyone know who knew this information? Who knew this information and used it against us? Somebody in the Purim story knew the redemptive quality of Shabbat and therefore used it against us because they didn't want us redeemed. This you got to know. You did Purim with me? Very good. How'd you know that? Well played. Vashti is the correct answer. Vashti made the Jewish women work on Shabbat. Actually, she used to strip them naked, which is why she was stripped naked by the end. And she used to beat them and make them work on Shabbat. Now remember, the whole Purim story is midah keneged midah, measure for measure. What was the measure for measure? Well, one I already mentioned, that she was made to strip off in front of all the people, right? And she was given a terrible skin disease, that she was embarrassed to do that. That's the only reason she didn't do it. It wasn't snua reasons. She wasn't a modest woman in any way, shape, or form. She didn't want to embarrass herself. When was she killed? The Megillah itself tells us the day she was killed. What does it say? It doesn't say Shabbat. It says Yom HaShvi, on the 7th day. Weird. Why are we going to tell us the day that Vashti was killed? Right? This very evil woman. And the answer is to tell us that she would make the woman work on Shabbat. And so she was punished on Shabbat. She was punished on Shabbat. Okay? And she ended up dying on Shabbat itself. Right?
Isn't it like when someone dies of Shabbat, like they're tzaddik?
For them, not for her it wasn't.
Right, so
It was for that because it was midah keneged midah. For her it was midah keneged midah. It was a very bad sign for her. Okay? So she knew this information. And there were many other people, and if you actually look through history, one of the first things non-Jewish nations who want to hurt us and terrorize us start doing, right, the Greeks and the Romans and even the Persians, right, even in Paras, during the Purim story, they stopped Shabbat as well. Because they realized once you stop Jews keeping Shabbat, the redemption is no way close. Now, it didn't work because they were forced to break Shabbat. It doesn't work that way. You can't be forced to do it. And if you're forced to do it, it's not really breaking Shabbat. So it didn't work, and therefore the Jews ended up being redeemed. But she knew that information. She knew it, and many people know it, that if you want the Jews to be redeemed, there is a strong connection between Shabbat and Galut. Exile. You stay in exile. Shabbat is the Geula, it is the redemption. It redeems us. It redeems us personally as individuals. It redeems us, and it redeems the Jewish people as in general. I'll say even more, by the way. I'll do this next semester in a lot more detail. We'll look at the sources inside. But actually, the first time Amalek came to attack us and really hurt us was because we broke Shabbat. Actually, maybe it was the second time. Once you break Shabbat, right, the boundaries are taken down and you're no longer protected. And not being protected means you stay in Galut. So right after the Torah tells us that one of the people broke Shabbat, right after Amalek came to attack us. The two are juxtaposed, they are samuch, and they see there's a connection. Had they kept Shabbat, Amalek wouldn't have come. That is what Yonasan Eibeshitz makes that connection. It's like two completely different things. We broke Shabbat, Amalek came. No, it's connected. Shabbat is the protector. It protects the Jewish people. It is the Haganah. It is the Israeli Defense Force. In this case, the Jewish Defense Force. Right? So we'll go more into that, but just on the same topic for a moment. If a major part of the Messianic redemption is the building of the temple, right? Right, remember that? That was one of the proofs of the Rambam, that Mashiach is the Mashiach, he builds the temple. So if that's true, which it is, then maybe I can figure out something else we can do to bring Mashiach. So we're going to have to use a little bit of logic over here, and a little bit of historical reality. If the temple is rebuilt, then I can figure out what not to do by looking at the temple's destruction. Right? Does that make sense? What reason was the temple destroyed? Sinat Chinam. Sinat Chinam. Baseless hatred between the Jewish people. Baseless hatred. So wait a minute. If that's true, if baseless hatred destroys the temple, then what can we do to rebuild the temple? It's just an equation. That's going to be part of it, but well, Avat Chinam is actually not really the expression, because there is no expression like Avat Chinam. That's like 1960s free love. It's Avat Yisrael. That's the opposite of Sinat Chinam is Avat Yisrael, love for one another. Within that, Rebecca, the Chavetz Chaim makes a big deal of the worst form of Sinat Chinam is Lashon Hara. So in other words, there's pieces. You've got to kind of piece it together, right? And that's what the Chavetz Chaim says. It says, just work it out. If that destroyed, that builds. And Lashon Hara is basically all arguments and all the hatred between people comes from negative, speech. So you can make an assumption that working on Lashon Hara, as in not to speak Lashon Hara, is going to help. Okay? And that's the next page. Turn over the page. And the Sfas Emes says, Keivan shalidei sinat chinam necharav, since baseless hatred destroys us, is note 3. Right? Kol shekain shalidei ahavat Yisrael yeh nivne ve'ezus Hashem yisbarach. Through love for one another, we'll see it's going to rebuild. Okay, so now we have 2 areas. Well, it's actually 3. Shabbat is one. We have Ahavat Yisrael, which we kind of figured out, right, by a process of elimination. Specifically, no Lashon Hara. Yeah, specifically no Lashon Hara, because Lashon Hara is one of the main ways that we hurt and destroy each other and our communities and chulu, 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 chulu. What other forms of Ahavat Yisrael do we see? What's the greatest form of Ahavat Yisrael, of loving other people?
Charity.
Charity, right. How do we refer to charity?
Tzedakah.
Tzedakah. Tzedakah is only one form of a much broader category, which is called chesed. Right? Ahavat Yisrael is going to come from chesed. Nachon? Ken? Bale? We? Do we cover all the languages in here? Did we just say any languages out? We did French. Oh, and any Russians here? You're Russian? You're Russian around, I'll tell you that. Da. Marvelous. Says the Chassam Sofer something very interesting, and he says, you know what? Let me share something with you. Pesach was a redemption. Nachon? Pesach, we were redeemed. So we're going to learn things from Pesach. And we mentioned already that actually, if you look into Pesach, half of the Pesach Haggadah is actually about the exodus from Egypt. But the other half, with Eliyahu Hanavi, the 5th cup. Remember that? 5th cup of Eliyahu Hanavi? He's there. What's Eliyahu Hanavi doing in my Pesach Seder? How did he get involved? He wasn't in Egypt. What was he getting busy for? And the answer is, yeah, actually, he's a big part of it. Because Pesach was all about redemption. Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, is all about redemption as well. And the Pesach Seder is about the redemption from Egypt, but it's also about the future redemption of Mashiach. Pesach is a very messianic holiday. Very. It's all about the Messiah. Well, actually, not all, half. You go from past to present to future, and the future is Mashiach, which is why we finish off the Pesach Seder with the words, Lashana Habai Yerushalayim. Why do we mention Yerushalayim at the end of the Pesach Seder? We don't mention the end of Sukkot. Right? We don't mention the end of Rosh Hashanah. Okay, we do the end of Yom Kippur. But we don't mention the end of... Why do we mention the end of Pesach? And what Lashana Habai Yerushalayim? Does that mean, next year we should be in a nice hotel having the Pesach program? That means that Mashiach should come. We should all be in Yerushalayim together. Right? That's what it's talking about. And so, we see that Pesach Seder is all about... So let's jump into the Pesach Seder. And he says, well, look at the beginning of the Pesach Seder, which is going to end up with Mashiach coming and all of us in Yerushalayim. What does it begin with? Shema Toma, if you'll say, what do we gain by being freed from Egypt? We're back in Galut. What's the point? And he says there's a big difference. We were in Egypt. We couldn't expedite our redemption. There's nothing we could do. There was a given time. The time was there. It was Be'ito. Boop, you're out. That was it. However, in this exile, he says, over Galut zeh biyadenu lekarav et hakates. What does the word kates mean? The end. The end time. Over Galut, in this Galut, it is in our ability to mekarev, to bring closer the kates, al yedei tzedakah umasim tovim, through charity and acts of kindness. Lefichach, and that's why, says the Chassam Sofer, on his commentary to the Haggadah, we begin the Pesach Haggadah by doing what? Inviting guests to our Pesach Seder. Kol dechfen yesev yechal. All people who are hungry, come and join the Seder. Why do we don't begin any other holiday like that. Oh, Yom Kippur, bring guests. Rosh Hashanah, you want to bring guests, that's fine. When it comes to Pesach, we say bring guests. Why? Because we want to end up with the Galut, we want to end up with the Geulah, with the redemption. So we're going to say bring guests to our Pesach Seder. We're connecting the two realities. We begin with guests by doing nice things for people. By the way, these guests don't only have to be physically hungry. They could be spiritually hungry too, by having people who don't know what Pesach is all about. And by doing so, we get to expedite the redemption. Yeah? Okay? So that's the connection between Pesach, welcoming guests to the Pesach table, and bringing Mashiach. Okay? We learn that from Pesach. Do nice stuff. Take care of people physically, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. Do chesed. You have a friend in class not doing so well. Help them. Right? Someone needs help with their notes. Help them. They're in an exam. They want to see your paper during the exam. Don't show it to them. That is how to do chesed for your friends. And keep your curve on top. Okay. Says the Chafetz Chaim. So the Chafetz Chaim in Shmeres HaLashon, right? Chelek Sheni, in the second part, chapter 7. He says, you know what? Let's get big. Right? As he didn't say, go big or go home. Right? He did not say that. What he did say, however, is, well, what's the greatest thing we can do as a form of chesed for each other? Is to bring shalom, bein adam lachaveiro, and that brings redemption. Okay? Shalom! Peace. Bringing peace between two people, bringing peace between communities, bringing peace upon the world. The greatest thing you can do is bring shalom. Right? There's no better way to jumpstart the Messianic redemption than peace. Okay? That's the greatest form of ahava, to bring peace. I see Chloe's having an argument with someone, which she would never do. I'm like, Chloe, they were foolish. Forgive them. Forgive them. They did not know what they did when they, I don't know, cursed you or upset you or let the elevator close or didn't pay for you or whatever it was, right? Whatever it is, right? By doing that, bringing peace between people and being very serious. Right? It's considered one of the greatest mitzvot. Right? We think, oh, keeping Shabbos, eating kosher. No, this is ranked pretty highly. That's what Chofetz Chaim is going to tell us. V'hinei, kasva sfarim b'shem hazohar kadosh. Many books have written in the name of the holy Zohar. Now check this out. He's defining peace, okay? This is the definition of peace for Jews. Right? The bar is set very, very, very low. A very low bar. When we say peace, we don't mean peace between the Arabs and the Palestinians. No. We don't mean between, I don't know, America and Cuba. No. We don't mean to have everyone loving each other and hugging each other. No, that's too much to ask. He says, if one synagogue in the entire world, in Russia or in France or in Kabul or wherever, no synagogues in Kabul anymore. They were, not anymore. If one synagogue in Great Neck, in Teaneck, in Monsey, just one synagogue, Hayushomrim Midat Shalom, really had peace among the members, Mashiach would come. Now, when I heard this the first time, I was like, oh, he's being, if we just had one. No. He's not talking like allegorically. He literally means it. If there was one synagogue where there was real shalom among all the members, Mashiach would come. Which means the fact that Mashiach is not here, that there's not one synagogue, not one Beit Kinishta that has peace among it. Which is pretty sad, really, isn't it, if you think about it? Just one synagogue. Just like, imagine that. And by the way, this is the Zohar says this, and the Chofetz Chaim has mentioned this in one of the law books. Like, oh, let's just be nice to each other. Just one community got it right, everything will be okay. Obviously, they're not. Im came B'yat Mashiach. Therefore, says the Chofetz Chaim, the arrival of the Messiah, Taluya B'yadeinu, is dependent upon our hands. Our hands is an expression for our actions. V'yadua shemidas shalom, and it's known, he says, that shalom, this character, he didn't say, I don't know, fast, Yom Kippur, daven better, these are all good things, but they are, the rabbis over there are laser pointing various mitzvot that again will expedite, that'll get the job done. Shabbat is one of them, right? Norosh Hashanah is another, but he's like, just be nice to each other. Ein ad yocholem l'zakot ba rak im niyeh zehirim etchila ma'avon silat chinam. Mashiach is not going to come unless we've got to lay the ground. He's not just turning up, hello, I'm here. We've got to lay there's going to be some kind of groundwork that is laid for his arrival to get us ready, the world ready. Right? You've got to have shalom. There's got to be a shalom institute. Maybe there is actually, I don't know. Right? And everyone should work on working on this one particular trait of not hating other people. By the way, shalom sounds very nice, isn't it? Let's just all hug each other. Right? Let's just all hug, it's going to be okay. Should I define actually what shalom really means? Because the Torah itself tells us. Do you all know how you actually meant to get shalom? I'll make it much, much clearer for you why there is no shalom. Because you're like, well, I like people in my shul. They're nice. There's a nice rabbi. He talks a little bit too long, but he's okay. And the guy sitting next to me, the girl saying, they're nice people. Okay, let me define this for you, just so you understand. Leaving the Lashon Hara aside, because we all speak Lashon Hara, we'll just get rid of that for a second, because that's impossible as far as we're concerned. Let's leave that aside. Shall I give you some examples of how we meant to have shalom among us? Anyone want to hazard a guess of Torah prohibitions that break down shalom? How about no revenge? All right, you can't take revenge. Lo tikom, lo nakama. Sound familiar? One is to go to the mitzvah. You take revenge. No shalom. How about not bearing a grudge? Lo titor, netira. No revenge, no bearing grudges. But just for interest, what's the difference between revenge and grudge?
Revenge is like,
What's revenge? Start with revenge. What's revenge?
well, revenge, you're acting upon it, you're actually doing something.
Right, revenge is like, I say to you, lend me something, and you're like, no. And you come to me, lend me something, I'm like, you don't lend me, I don't lend you. That's revenge. That is prohibited, unless I wasn't planning on lending it. I'm just not doing it because, I'm not lending it because you didn't do it. So what's bearing a grudge?
You're holding something against somebody.
Holding something against someone, which, by the way, we all do, all the time, 24/7. Let me give you an example. Gabby said, I go to Gabby and say, can I borrow something? She's like, no. Next thing she comes to me, she's going, can I borrow something? And I lend it to her. And in my mind, I don't even say it. I think, I'm not like you, Gabby. I lend things. It's bearing a grudge. Can you see it? As far as Gabby's concerned, hey, Rabbi, we're besties. Yeah, he's my BFF. But inside, I've kept it a little bit inside me. That's a Torah prohibition. Right? That's someone. Oh, there's tons more, but those are the main ones, I would say.
Or like the side ones, those are quite huge.
What?
Like, where are the side ones? Those are like quite huge.
What side ones?
Like, besides for like, you're saying that these are the two main ones.
These are Torah prohibitions.
Mine, I
The
think-
same Torah says don't eat pig, says don't take revenge. Who says any? Maybe this is worse than eating pig. Who knows? I mean, it's the same Torah says it. It doesn't categorize. Now, eating pig is really bad. Revenge, not so bad. It could be. I don't know. It could be. The same Torah says that doesn't make a difference. It could be eating pig. It's the same walking into a store, getting a lobster, putting on the pajamas, and starting to crack open the shell. Same Torah. I've never seen a differentiation. Where did it revenge, whatever. She deserved it. Right, you know what? He said it to me, I did it to him. He took my money, I took his money. Right? But she wasn't friendly to me. She ignored me in the calf. Right? She wouldn't lend me stuff. I always lend her stuff. And you start telling other people, it becomes Lashon Hara. Right? There's a whole system over here. Right? It all ends up hating each other. Oh, no Mashiach. Pretty big. It could be. I'm just saying. It didn't say over here, keep kosher, bring Mashiach. It didn't say that. Right? I'm not saying you should eat non-kosher, by the way. Be very clear about this. As a rabbi, you should not eat lobster. Be very clear about that. Okay? You should ditch the swine. Okay? However, no one hates people. However, that's what the focus. I'm telling you what the rabbis say. Okay? So that's what he says. What's one sin? Let's go back to them. V'yodua shemida shalom ein yicholim l'zachot ba rak im niyeh zehir mitchilam av anisim v'tchinam. Right? Through that, he says, we know that the temple was destroyed because of sin chinam. So if that destroys, obviously, be nice builds. And what's the building of the temple mean? Well, can it happen with Mashiach? So we're basically forcing Mashiach to come. Because we're so good to each other. Hashem's like, here's your temple, but I can't build your temple unless Mashiach's here. That's his job. And boom, we get Mashiach to come. That is the equation. This is making sense. It's not brain surgery. Yes.
What about involuntary thoughts? I mean, not saying
oh, I'm nice, I share, you don't, but sometimes you just...
Okay, they come in.
on purpose
Some
just
say
back
that,
down.
right? No, not so. You're not greedy for your thoughts, to be truth. Some say the grudge is only if you act upon it in some way. You hold hatred in your heart and act with the person with hatred because of the grudge that you have. You're not held culpable for your thoughts. And thank goodness for that. Okay? Your positive thoughts you are, by the way. If you try to do a mitzvah and you're prevented from doing it, you get reward for it. Let's say you want to give tzedakah to someone. You're trying to do someone a favor. Okay? You want to help Sarah with her work. And while you're walking over there, you're prevented from going from yourself. But that was your intention. You got a flat tire. You get it's though it happened. Mashav Kamais, it's though it happened. The good news is, if you're going to go and mug the rabbi, and on the way, you're prevented because of a flat tire, you're not held culpable for it. Hashem did you a goodie, and you're not punished for it. You have to actually do the negative action in order to be in trouble for it. And then you're in trouble for the thought as well, the action and the thought. But when it comes to mitzvah, an act, a positive thing, if you try to do something and you are prevented by something like outside yourself, you get reward for it as though it happened.
Also, is it true?
Good news, right?
Is it true that if you stop yourself from speaking Lashon Hara, but then you end up speaking Lashon Hara, it still counts as if you didn't?
No,
That one somewhere.
not at all. Not at all. If I think about killing you, and then I decide not to kill you, and then I kill you, I have killed you. You cannot make a separation between the two. The first time you are rewarded for it, by the way. If you're able to reward yourself for it. It's tough, though. Tough. Okay. Yes, how can I help?
What if like you say a comment like Lashon Hara,
Yeah.
and then the second you say it, you realize you shouldn't have said it, so you like
You
mentally
apologize.
like apologize to God.
So when it comes to Lashon Hara, it's unusual because usually you're doing a veil between you and God. A person breaks Shabbat, they do teshuvah, and Hashem forgives them if they do it with all heartedness. When it comes to Lashon Hara or revenge or sinat chinam, it doesn't work like that, sadly. It takes a little bit of both. You have to apologize to Hashem and to the person themselves for doing what you did. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to do half a class just on the laws of Lashon Hara. I'm going to give you the
But
basics.
how do you can't go to a person and say, oh, I spoke badly about you, I'm sorry.
You are actually expected to do that. I know.
But you can't.
If you think it's going to make them feel bad, then you don't. Then you may not have to do it.
I think it's going to cause them to speak Lashon Hara that year.
That could be problematic, actually. That could be problematic. Yeah. Actually, that's true. Even if you know someone doesn't like, if I know you don't like someone, Aura, which doesn't exist because you love everyone, because you're the light that loves all people. But if I know you don't like someone, I cannot go up to you and say, oh, that person's so amazing. Aren't they just the most awesome person ever? Because you're going to say like, you know, they're not so good. You are out to compliment people, and you should. People, that's Lashon Tov. That's Lashon Tov. But you shouldn't do it in front of a person you don't really like. Yes.
What if you think of a comment?
Oh, that's okay. I think that person's a jerk. No, that's no problem. I do it all the time. All right? Saying it's the problem. Oh my God. There'll be in big trouble.
Okay.
Lashon Hara is spoken. It has to be spoken in order to be. Yeah.
What if it's
Oh yeah.
sorry. Okay. So what if like you have a problem with somebody and then you go to another person for that problem, but you have to recount what that
That's
person
fine.
did.
If you need a therapist, you need to go to someone, a teacher, right, to get through a certain and you know you can't do without naming the person, right? Which in most cases you don't really need to. Then you're allowed to do it for positive purposes. L'to'elet, that would be considered to'elet. Okay, you know what? The next piece of Rav Dessler is going to take me a little bit more time, so we're going to stop early today. Those who did not receive their midterms, please come forth to receive them, and we'll pick this up, God willing, on Thursday. Have a great day.